So good morning. I know it's the last session. You all want a little pick-me-up, but bear with me for 10 minutes. What I would like to first thank the organizers for offering me this keynote session. I'm very thrilled and enthusiastic to be with you today. As Jane said, I have let's say a deep experience in building and deploying let's say AI applications. We are all end users of applications. Sometimes we don't even notice we are using AI underneath. We use that for searching. We do that for interacting with online agents. Sometimes we also have AI behind the scene when we try to type something and then we have some automatic corrections. So I'd like to introduce to some of the applications that we are deploying and how we build them. So some words about Expert System. We are a software vendor specialized in artificial intelligence. We have been deploying a lot of applications, and our goal is to really support decision makers and users in different business areas. Our cognitive AI technology is really used to, let's say, is relying on a mix of ontologies, domain knowledge, and that's the talk of the day. Knowledge is important. And also natural language understanding technologies in order to be able to read, understand, and make sense of unstructured content. So to share a few examples, when we build applications for the media space, for instance, we help content creators, let's say, being more efficient. We also help financial organizations building robots for interacting with customers or knowing better their clients. We also work for pharma organizations to build competitive intelligence dashboards that support the CI teams. So we just celebrated 30 years at Expert System. It was we had a nice event. So I tried to represent here the type of applications we have been deploying along the 30 years. So what you see from left to right, so we started deploying applications, let's say, for spell checkers, dictionaries, and we are now working on knowledge discovery applications. So I would say the ability to reach this kind of, to develop these kind of applications, let's say, has been possible thanks to the amount of knowledge we have been able to embed into the applications. Without knowledge, we can't reach this point. So, for instance, also from left to right, when you see the type of applications we have been deploying, we really raised the levels of accuracy, the process automation, and even the interaction with the users in our applications. From the bottom to top, you see also the amount of knowledge that is necessary to reach this kind of, to be able to deploy those applications. So our ability to basically grow with knowledge we can structure. We started with what we call machine reading, AI machine reading. So this means that we are able to read and understand what is written in textual content. Now we have much more interactions. We have some self-learning capabilities also embedded. This means that we can definitely have more interaction with the user. So we go from, let's say worker-centric applications to more network-centric applications. As you can see here, these are the, let's say, versions of our technology that we released. So 20 years ago, we started to build a knowledge graph that was essential for us to represent the common knowledge of one language. 10 years after, we reached the point where we now support 14 different languages, and we also specialize that graph to adapt to different domains. So, as I said, we go from narrow AI to maybe strong AI down the road. We don't know exactly what will be the future, but definitely we are going more about networking and connecting the applications with more users. Quickly about the technology. So in order to build an application, you need to have information that is well-structured, accurately extracted, identified, and standardized. So when it comes to unstructured data, when it comes to text, it's very difficult to do. So we need to have a solution in between that we call cognitive AI that is able to understand that text and to structure it. So we structure the unstructured. So we perform auto-classification, we extract the key data. We're also able to build some specific models about the knowledge coming from your companies or coming from your internal content. So let me show you a quick example of our knowledge graph. So that's just, let's say, an excerpt of that graph. We organize it by, let's say, group of synonyms. So each term has multiple definitions, multiple synonyms, and that is linked to others through relationships. So this network is the way we organize the information in a way to better understand all the ambiguities in the language. I don't know that we have 66 different meanings of strike just in the domain of sports. If you combine with the other domains we have much more information available. But it's essential when it comes to read information. You need to understand the meaning. You need to be able to link any, let's say, word, any person name, organization to a special meaning so that you can know in which domain you are. So let me give you a first example, let's say, in the media industry. So in the media industry, I would say they have been using AI for years, and that really supports the whole supply chain in this industry. So we are going now for more personalized, let's say, services. We are going really from a one-to-many to a one-to-one model. So more and more, the organization we are working with try to make sure that you have your personal experience when it comes to navigating within their content. So it supports directly the end user, but it also supports, let's say, the internal creators, content editors that can also focus much more on the, let's say, having more time for creativity, spending less time in doing manual, let's say, curation, manual tagging, let the machine do it consistently and accurately, and focus on other tasks that are much more meaningful and more important to define strategies of the company. I'd like to warmly thank Politico for authorizing us to disclose some of the work we have been doing with them. We are pretty proud of being part of their premium intelligence platform that they released earlier this year. That's a very nice platform that has the main goal of deepening the experience of the end users, the consumer of their information, and to give them access to more, let's say, channels of information. So the first thing we did is to help them building a taxonomy in order to be able to consistently and accurately tag the content, especially the news stories. So this means that we are currently eliminating the manual tagging so that information can be also published and much more faster. We also enrich the content with people, names, organizations, government committees, and so on. So it helps identifying those, let's say, key influential people that are very important for end users, and they can subscribe directly to these organizations and name entities. Last but not least, we also provide support to the content recommendation engine. That's a smart engine that is also relying on the topics that we identify or the name entities that we extract. So one key benefits of this, beyond the automation, beyond the, let's say, automatic tagging, and how fast we can publish it, that we are not covering 100% of the content of Politico. This means that the company can think of defining different ways to monetize this content and to make sure that people can have access to all of it, whether it's new information or whether it's other information that will help understanding some contextual phenomenon. So to give you a quick preview of that, so this is the user interface, so users better understand why they receive the content, they have access to the topics, they see the different person names, they see related articles, and they can directly subscribe to those domains of interest based on their subscription or simply by navigating through the taxonomy. So there are a lot of things that are cooking at Politico. I can't reveal what will be coming next. I would like to thank Ryan. Maybe he's in the room today with us. He has been supporting us in preparing that deck, and he told us that there are already, let's say, goals to build, to bring more search capabilities to the end users that will now navigate within federal and state regulations. So more to come. So please stay abreast of what's coming next at Politico. Let's switch to another domain, risk management. Just think you are the butterfly and the risk you are taking here. So that's all our financial organizations that are contacting us, and also the insurance companies are looking at the risk they are taking, try to better manage that risk, try to better understand what risk they are taking if they are insuring someone or a company. So they are facing also with a need to modernize their services. Why? Because the there's a real shift in the attitudes of people. They are, let's say, expecting to have more on-demand service. They want to have the flexibility, whether it's for personal insurance or commercial insurance, that works the same. So when it comes to this shift, they're also facing with more risk exposures. Think about cybersecurity, think about environmental uncertainties or political uncertainties. So these are all additional risks that they have to cover and take into consideration before insuring a company, a facility, or a person. So we have to also help them making assessments faster. There is a competitive, that's a very competitive domain, and we have to support them in, let's say, reviewing different levels of risk. So to give you one example, so we built an application to compare different contracts together. In many countries, maybe you have, for a major company, a master agreement, and you are covered by local agreements locally. So when someone is issuing the local agreement, they need to make sure that there are no misalignment with the master policy. So there is a matter of aligning the language, but at the same time, sometimes there is some barriers. The language may be different. That can be written in a different language because these are different countries. So we have to free up some time of the underwriters. And so what we design is a way to alert them on some discrepancies that we find in the different policies. So what we design is a tool that is digesting the master policy and the local policies, whatever the languages they are written in, and we propose some, let's say, differences. We show them the differences if there are any, so that they can focus only on those differences. And we also give them access to where in each policy we have the information that refers to these discrepancies. I'm switching to another domain. I'm sorry, it's very fast, but I'm also conscious of the time I have. Look at the pharma world. These, let's say, pharma companies or, let's say, health organizations are facing with tons of scientific publications. They have to deal with that in order to define in which area they want to invest for, let's say, drug development, for instance. Nature told us already 5 years ago that the global scientific output is doubling every 9 years. I think it's true, and we saw also much more information published thanks to the discovery of the human genome, especially when it comes to physiological phenomenon. And so this is massive amount of information that is extremely valuable, but difficult to handle for pharmaceutical companies. So what we are doing here, that we are supporting them in going into more analytic solutions to digest for them this kind of information and try to build what we call actionable intelligence. This is information you can rely on to build your analytics. If you don't have any information that is structured enough, standardized enough, it's very difficult to build meaningful analytic solutions. So we extract from different scientific publications. We also look at clinical trials. We look at different sources, press releases also. As soon as a drug is on the market, you'll be first known in the press release, not in the clinical trials. So we have to look at all this information, try to extract, let's say, information around genes and proteins, physiological processes, about the diseases they are interacting with, about the drugs, and so on. So what happens in the background is this kind of mechanism. So we look at the publications on the left, and we build a knowledge base. This knowledge base gradually links different type of information, the proteins that are also involved in some diseases, the drugs that are developed by some manufacturers, which stage it is in the clinical development. So this information is extremely valuable and populates a knowledge base that we can use to build an analytic solutions on top of it. And everything has been standardized. If you don't standardize this information, again, it's not meaningful. So to give you just an idea of the type of graph, if we have to represent it, this one is standardized in the sense you don't have 2 times the same, let's say, meaning of, let's say, a gene, for instance, the same definition of a gene. So we have a lot of nodes and connections that we can rely on. And if we zoom in a bit, you will see these connections appearing here between, in that case, some genes and let's say, physiological processes. So the outcome is this one. So we build these kind of dashboards where we can analyze all these publications, clinical trials, and so on, and give, let's say, pharma companies or, let's say, biotech companies a way to look at what type of drugs are on the market, which ones are being developed, what are the companies that are working on them, what are the, let's say, genes involved, and the diseases that they are treating. It's extremely useful because when it comes to develop a new drug, for instance, you want to focus, and let's say I have a drug already that is treating one disease, maybe I can repurpose it for a rare disease or for disease in some situations like disease for children. And sometimes we don't have the same amount of research done by those companies to treat these rare diseases. So it's important to support them with this kind of dashboard. Last thing to close my talk, and I'm done, I'm sorry. I wanted to finish with this quote from Daniel Borstein, historian, also librarian at the Library of Congress. I translate in our world as saying that if we want to capitalize on human knowledge, we have to capitalize on this human knowledge, but in a way that is applicable and trustful for the AI applications that we are building. Thank you for your attention.